Hi, welcome to the new video. In this video, we are going to see the data validation part of our project. So in our US Visa folder, we have a file named Constants. So in this file, we already have this file. I have added some code. Let me show you that. So this is our init file inside the constants. And this code we already had, which we have seen. This is the constants for data ingestion part. And this code I have added, which is for data validation part. So as you can see, this is schema file path. So I'll show you what schema file we have created. So this is our schema file. This is inside. I have created a new folder inside US, not inside US Visa, but inside our main folder, which is this config. Okay. So this is config, this folder I have created, and inside that I have created a new file dot called schema.yaml file. So this is the what we have written inside the file. As you can see, these are the columns which we want to validate, name of the columns and the type, and this is the name of numerical columns, and this is the name of categorical columns, and this is the columns which we want to draw. So I think this is clear. Now let's go back to our constants. So here I have given the path that inside our config folder we have a file called schema.yaml. So this is our schema file path. Now this is our data validation related constants. Data validation is the name we have given to the directory, and we are storing it in data validation directory name. The data validation drift report directory, we have given it name drift report, and the file name is report.yaml. So inside our artifacts, what we want to do is inside our artifacts, we'll have our folder, and inside that folder, we'll have a folder named data validation with the data ingestion folder that we already have, that we have seen. So there will also be one more folder named data validation, and inside that there will be drift report folder, and inside that we will get our report, which will be our artifact, right? So I think this is clear. Now let's move on. So this is the main utils file. So where is it? Utils, okay. So as you can see, inside our US Visa, we have utils, and inside that, this is the main utils.py file. Okay. So let me show you this file. Okay. So this is the code inside the main utils file that I've written. We are importing the exception and logging. Now we will write a function which is for reading YAML file. Okay. So here we are giving file path, and it will return the dictionary as you can see here, right? So this is try. We are opening the file and we are using YAML.saveLoad. So what this saveLoad function will do is that this is our file object. So it will read the contents of it, and it will convert it into a Python data structure, which is dictionary, which you can see here. So it will convert the contents into a dictionary format, and we are returning that. Okay, this is good. Write YAML file. So this is again we are giving it file path, the content, and replace. So if you can see, if replace equal to true, if we give the input inside the function as replace equal to 2, that means we want to replace the file. So what it does is it checks if the file path is there or not. If it is there, it removes it because we have given replace equal to true, and after removing, it creates a new file, and then it opens the file and writes the new content inside it. So this is when we have replace equal to true. But if we will have replace equal to false, then it will not run this code. It will directly go run from here. So it will check if there is a file inside that or no. If exists equal or exists okay equal to true, that means if there will be file there, then it will not create a file there, and it will just simply open and dump the content. Okay. So I think this is good. So these are our other utils that we are going to use for in further in our project. Load object, save numpy array data, then load numpy array data, save object, drop columns. These are the different utils. For now, in this video, we are going to use these two utils only. Okay. So let's move further. So this is our config entity file. This we already had. So it is inside the US visa inside entity. So let me show you. Inside the US visa inside the entity, we have config entity and artifact entity, which we already had. I have added some new code inside there for our data validation part. So let me show you that. So this we already had this code. This is the data ingestion class, config class. We have created a new class called data validation config, and we are adding the path of our folder structure and file, which will be this. Okay. So inside the training pipeline artifact directory, we will have a data validation directory name, and which we just a second, which is there here. Data validation directory name, which is data validation. This is the name we have given to the directory. So let me show you. Yeah. So inside our artifact directory, we will have data validation folder. Okay. So, and inside that folder, we will have this file, data validation drift report file. So what is that? Let me show you. This is our file. Okay. So inside the data validation folder, we will have drift report, and inside that drift report, we will have report.yaml. Okay. So I think this is clear as you can see here. Okay. Yeah, this is good. So now let's move. This is our artifact entity. It's in the same folder entity. Inside it, there is a file artifact entity which we have already created. Now let me show you the code we have added. This is the code we have added. Data validation artifact class. I have created this. So this is the artifact which we want as uh, output when our validation part is component is run properly. So this will be stored, okay, inside the artifact. So this is the validation status. We will get true or false, which will show if the validation is successful or not. We will get message, and we will get the drift report file path. Okay, so it will have full all of our drift report. I'm sorry. So I think this is good. Now let us move further. This is schema which we have already seen. Now I have created a new file called data validation.py, which is inside the components, right? This is the components. So we already have written data ingestion. I have created a new file data validation.py for our data validation component. So let's see the code. Yeah. So I am using evidently here, which is a Python library which is open source. So we are using it to get our drift report. Okay. Now all these is the US visa exception logger. This all things we have already seen previously. Okay. And here I am also importing the schema file path and validation config. Okay. And validation artifact as well. Now let's see. Okay, this is the class. Name of the class is data validation. This is the init. It will take the artifact and the config, etc. and it will store in self dot variable, as you can see. Okay, now this is good. Okay, this is a function validate number of columns. So what it will do, it will check if the data set we are receiving is does the column satisfy this schema.yaml columns that we have given. Okay, so let me explain you the code. Okay, so it will check. See, I told you that inside the this read YAML file schema file path, we will have it stored as a dictionary. Okay, so now this length self.schema.config, it will tell us that inside the columns key is our columns, and inside that there will be names stored as a list. So we will get the length of that list, which will give us the number of columns. Okay, so this is the and this is the data frame dot columns which we have, okay, and we are taking length of that. This is the data frame we are getting, and this is the dot columns which will give us the list of columns. So we are checking if these two are same or not, and if they are same, it will give us true. So the status will be true if they are same. So this is just we are logging the status, and this is good. Okay. Now we are checking is column exist. So what does this do? Okay, it takes the data frame and cell obviously, and we are checking. We are storing first the columns of our data frame, and this is just to store the missing numerical columns and categorical columns if there are any. So we are just initializing a list, and so we are checking for schema config numerical columns. So we'll get the numerical columns from here. Okay. So if this numerical columns, just a second, where is it? Okay. If this numerical columns and the column inside this list is in data frame dot columns, it is not in the data frame of columns. Okay, so let me explain again. I'm sorry. Uh, the schema.config.numerical columns. This will return us. This is returning us this names of the columns, right? Now we are looping through each name, and we are checking if it is not in data frame.columns, then we will append that column name into our missing numerical columns list. Okay, so I think this is simple, and we are saying if there are any missing numerical columns, then we will log that we are having this missing numerical column name. Okay, so I think this is cool. Column in self.schema.config, and we are doing the same for categorical columns as well, and doing the same thing. Okay, it's the same. So return false if length is greater than 0, and if we are not having, just a second, else true. Okay, yeah. So at the end we are giving false if there are any missing categorical columns or numerical columns. If there are no missing numerical or categorical columns, then we are returning true. Okay, so this is our is column exist function. Okay, so this is static method because this read data will not take any self variables. Okay, it will not take any self. So this is called static method. Now this is just reading the file path, and it will just return the CSV, the file path. Okay, so I think this is good. Now detect dataset drift. Okay, yeah, this function is uh this job of this function is to detect if there is a dataset drift or not. Okay, yeah, just let me check the recording is going. Yeah, it is good. So now let me explain you the code. So this this is the report function which we are using from evidently. Okay, so the result of this will be stored in data drift dot profile, and we are using the dot run function which asks us to give the reference date df which we want to compare, and the current df, okay, which we want to compare. So it will compare both of them, and it will store the inside the data drift profile. And now from that we are getting the JSON, and it is getting stored in the report. Okay, and now from that we are loading that report, and we are storing it into JSON report variable. So I think this is clear. And further we are using this write YAML function, which is taking file path, which is the data validation config drift report file path. Okay, so this, I think, let me show you where is it. This is the drift report file path which we are using. Okay, so this is the whole file path which we have already seen. We are using it here. Okay, so I think this is good. We are writing the file there. Now from this file, which is JSON report, we want to extract the number of features, the number of drifted features, and the drift status. So this is the code for that. This code will be clear when we will see the JSON report. So there will be matrix inside which there will be some sets out of there will be some dictionaries out of we want to take the first dictionary. Inside that there is a key name result. Inside that result there is a key name a number of columns which will result us which will return us the number of features. I'll show the report and that will be clear as we go on. Okay, so this will give us features, this will give us number of different features, and we are logging here if what the drift is detected, then how much it is. Okay, so this will give us the drift status. If drift is detected, then it will give us true, else it will give us false. Okay, now we are returning the drift status as you can see. Now this is the function which will run all the function above, so we don't have to run this uh, uh, call this every time, all this function. This function will call the above functions for us. So we just have to call this initiate data validation function, and it will also return us our artifact, data validation artifact. Okay, so this is just the train and train df and test df we are getting from the artifact which we have already gotten from our ingestion component. Data ingestion component artifact, we have that already, and from there we are taking the train file path. From there we have the train file path and test file path. We are taking the files from there and we are storing it in this variable. Okay, so status self dot validate number of, this is the above function which we are calling. We are getting the status, we are logging. Okay, and this is just the logging, and if the status is like false, then we will get error this error message. Okay, so I think this is pretty simple to understand. Okay, now okay, if validation status drift status, if drift status, so this is taking the drift status, and we are using this function detect dataset drift, and if this returns us true, then we will do this logging where it will come as drift detected, and we will save our validation error message as drift detected. Okay, else we will say drift is not detected if the drift status is false. Okay, now this is good. Okay, data validation, and at the end finally we have to return the artifact which we have written here. As you can see, this artifact we have to return these three things. So we have written these three things here: validation status, that there was a drift or not. No, I mean there was a validation or not. And here is the validation error message if there is any. And here we are writing the file path of where we have stored our report, this drift report file path. Okay, so I think this is good. We will have all these three things. Okay, and this is the logging, data validation artifact, and we will have our data validation artifact. I think this is good, and we are returning the artifact at the end, as you can see. So I think this is simple. Now let us test our code. For that we have demo.py file, as you know. So this is the code we have already written to test the ingestion part. I have just I've just taken the data validation config and validation artifact from these files, config entity and artifact entity. And now data validation instance I have written. This is the data validation function, and I am giving the data ingestion artifact here and the data validation config. Okay, and this is the data validation artifact that I am getting from the instance by using this function initiate data validation that we have written here. Okay, where is it? Yeah, this is the function. We have used this and we are getting the artifact. Okay, so to test if all our files code working, I have already ran the code. So let me show you. So this is, if you can see, I have already ran python demo.py, and as you can see, it has run successfully. And let me show you what we have got. Okay. So this is the logs. We know we have already seen these two logs in our previous videos. This is the log we have got after we ran this demo.py. So let us see what is there in this log. Okay. Yeah. So if you can see, we have all our logs: exported train, test file, exited, initiate data, then we have data ingestion. Okay, here we are is required column present, the status is true, so that means all our columns is present. And if required column is present, again true, we have all required columns present, as you can see. Okay, and now where is our final? Yeah, as you can see, data validation artifact validation status equal to true. That means where our validation has been completed, and the message final we have is drift not detected. That means there is no drift in our data set. Okay, so I think this is good. This is our logs. Now let me show you the artifacts. This is the artifact. As you know, previously, this is when we did the ingestion part only. This is the artifact of that time. You can see there is only one data ingestion folder inside it. But the second time when we ran this Python demo.py, this is the output we have. And as you can see, there is also a data validation folder with data ingestion. So this data validation folder, if you open it, it has drift report folder. Inside it, it will have the report.yaml. Now let me open this and show you. Let me check if the video is working. Yeah, it is working. Okay, yeah. So this is our report.yml. As you can see, there is matrix. Inside that, I have a two keys, which is metric and result. And inside this result as a key, we have values, which is dataset drift report, drift share. Okay, this. So what we want is if we want, let's say, dataset drift, we have to use this matrix. Inside it, I have to give 0, so it will give us this. And inside that 0, we want the dataset drift. So that is what we have written here. If I let me show you. Where is that? Ah, yeah. Okay. Can you see it? Matrix 0. Inside that there is a result, and inside that there is. So this one I'm talking about for drift status. Matrix 0 result dataset drift. Matrix result 0 dataset matrix. This is 0. This is the result. This is dataset drift. So this is, you can see here. Okay, and similarly, if you want the number of features, you can see matrix 0 result number of columns. So matrix 0 result number of columns, it will give us 12. Okay, so this after looking at this report.yml structure, I have written this code which will give us the number of features and this thing. Okay, so I think this is clear. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.